Welcome to Banned Books Conversations, where radical readers discuss prohibited prose. I'm your host, Tonya Todd, and we're here to talk about banned books, literary works that have been removed from a library shelf or school curriculum. Over the course of Banned Books Week, this series covers 7 different books, the reasons they were banned, and the value in reading them. Today's book is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. There will be spoilers ahead, but before we get to that, let's meet today's radical readers. Dan, please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
I am Spider Dan of Spider Dan and the Secret Boars podcast, where we look at underrated, obscure, and generally just kind of lost media as well, or controversial topics as well, but also with some fun there as well. Not all the dark and disturbing stuff, but yes, we have a lot of fun over there. Tonya's joined me several times, and we even did recently our banned movies project together, which we collaborated on quite extensively as a kind of a warm up to this year's Banned Books Week, which again I've been on the last couple of years and will do and absolutely try to support it in any way I can. And yeah, it's been a wonderful little project, very different yet quite similar in a lot of ways. And I questioned my own thoughts from last year and previous questions and previous conversations we've had, and it was a very much a different topic and different conversation, even though it seems similar. We got different answers from myself and the other guests, and yeah, it was a wonderful project, and I always really enjoyed collaborating with you, Tonya, and it was very much a worthwhile endeavor, as the numbers seem to be showing on the podcast stats, which I'm very happy of. So that's good. If I can only get back to those COVID numbers, I'm fingers crossed.
Oof.
Let's get back to those. Those podcasting numbers, none of the other numbers or stats involved with COVID, but you know what I mean. But yeah, no, it's an honor to be here yet again.
And I thank you for being here and for including me on the banned movie series. It was eye-opening seeing how some people, you'd think that people who are opposed to censorship, their answers would be across the board. And I even questioned some of my own preconceived thoughts about my own opinions because of some of the reasons that the movies were banned and the results of those movies out in the world. So it is definitely an interesting listen or watch. Dan put a lot of work into the visuals on screen to make it interesting. So whether you want to listen to it or watch it, I definitely recommend it. And I thank you for being here again, Dan. Wendy, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am Wendy Wimmer, and I am an author from Wisconsin in the US. And I most recently authored Entry Level Short Stories, which is a book of short stories, 15 short stories, talking about the experience of being overworked, overeducated, and underemployed. And I have a new novel coming out next fall, which fingers crossed it gets banned by some well-meaning school district. That would be awesome because that means I'm doing something right. And I've a frequent guest here on the Banned Books podcast as well, and I'm excited, thrilled to be back for my three-peat.
Yes, love it. And Kat, you are a newcomer here. Welcome. Tell us what it is that you do. And then I also want to know what interests you in the discourse surrounding banned books.
Hi, I'm Kat. I work at the VA and I just really love books. And it's like a visceral love. Like I love to hold books. I also have Kindle, but I am a true and true. Like I need to hold it, smell it, feel it. Um, but books you should have. It's information, whether it's fantasy or not, you know. I just really love it.
Well, I appreciate you being here. I know that we were having a conversation at a photo shoot. We were both being photographed and we were talking banned books, and just your passion was like, you should do the show with me. So I'm very, very glad to have you here and hear your perspective.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
So in recent years, the US has seen a sharp rise in book bans and challenges. Kat, what do you think this rapid increase says about where America is headed as a society?
I think it's going downhill as a society because they're just trying to stop free thinking. You know, they just they want to be so conservative, or oh, they're too young for this or that. And I honestly think that everyone should make up their own mind about what they feel like they can't handle. I mean,
Wendy.
sometimes
Oh,
information is too
sorry.
much, but I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sometimes we like to flood information like our internet, but you know, I still would like other people to figure out their own values.
Agreed. Wendy.
It's an interesting perspective as an author. I made the joke about getting my own book banned, but really all we're talking about is school libraries, right? And maybe in some cases, public libraries. Most independent bookstores are going to be able to provide those books. So it's really about access to people who maybe might not have been able to afford those books. And as Kat mentioned, it is some level of control or insulation, depending on your perspective. Are there some books that, sixth graders shouldn't read? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why we trust librarians, but it doesn't mean that that should be outside of the public library. Or, for instance, the Marquis de Sade. I don't think most sixth graders are going to want to read his weirdness. Um, but, but I also don't think that there's much value for a sixth grader to read it. So there's a time and a place for everybody to experience things with the caveat of understanding what they're getting into. And so, for the perspective of a school library, they might be saying, okay, everything here has, merit and or is valuable or entertaining and not harmful for young children to read, but also, I think where we get into really dangerous areas is when county libraries are banning books from adult sections, or banning books, maybe children's books, and not putting them into the adult sections where, maybe this is I'm thinking of like Judy Blume's Forever. Maybe this is meant for teens, but adults should still be able to check out that book who if they wanted to give it to their child. Um, Although I don't think Forever should be banned, to be honest. It's so especially tame by today's standard. That was a big thing when I was in high school, was that Forever was getting banned. And of course, everybody had to then go and check out Forever from the actual county library. When in reality, they should have been banning My Sweet Audrina, all the VC Andrews stuff, and those kind of like Sex with Your Brother books. But that was falling behind the radar. And I think that's, for me, from an author's perspective, I think that's where the line is so gray, because sometimes it's just about what they uh moms against profanity, or whatever they're calling themselves these days, what they pick up on that fits their political action, versus what actually is something that might be harmful. um so I think in some ways those politically motivated things aren't really so much about the book as it is about the showing that the politics are doing something and getting people to vote in a certain way. So that was a very meandering way of getting about it, but yeah, read Forever also.
Yeah, Rhea Kerrigan is someone who has been an advocate for that book for some time. So she'll be glad to hear that shout out. Dan, how is this trend seeping into UK attitudes and practices?
Quite a lot recently. We've quite recently had the biggest far right march go through the streets of London with a person who was charged with terrorism, and he's being heralded as a hero. Elon Musk, who is very pro-natalist, and it gave a little video shout out to them at the time. So yeah, it's very scary. We're only a hop, skip, and a jump away from you guys, and the trends are already, filtering through and coming across. Nigel Farage went over there quite recently, and he said how bad the UK was. You know, a politician from our own country going over to the US when he hasn't spent any of time in. He's the MP of Clacton, and he's nobody in Clacton has met him or seen him doing any work. He's not even in Parliament where they're making big decisions. He's too busy trying to make money over in the US and be a sycophant for Donald Trump. So yes, it is well and truly here. And I think, forgive the pun, it's about controlling the narrative, isn't it? That's what it is. It is absolutely about controlling the narrative. The less of people's works out there of these certain groups that you dislike or disagree with fundamentally, it is going to eventually get to a point where those people have, not been heard of, the discussions have not been had, will forget these certain groups existed. There'll be a young gay child questioning themselves and they'll be like, there's something different about me, but I can't figure out what it is, because there's no information out there. There's nothing for them to reflect or to learn or to empathize with, and it sounds preposterous now, but if we go down that path so far, that's what will happen. People will forget who they are or what they are. The more that we restrict access to information and freedom of thought, we have a there's a ban on pornography sites here in the UK, which I don't think is about porn at all, because you have to give over you have to face scan to get access to pornographic imagery, and you do that, but that information is sent to a private US institution, not in the UK, not run by politicians. We're giving our personal information away to, again, another tech bro like Elon Musk. But they're also applying this same rule, and we're seeing it now to Wikipedia. So Wikipedia in the UK now could potentially, because Wikipedia said we can't alter this, we're not applying this because this will potentially put the people who edit our articles at risk of any of various things. So Wikipedia may well be banned from the UK, one of the biggest, most open, forums for information may soon no longer be available in the UK, and that's terrifying. And I think that was again, there's a lot of kind of sleight of hand politics going on, like look at this, immigrants are bad, oh, they're taking your jobs, while they're actually like taking away everybody's rights, whoever you are, all of those rights are going. Speaking of long meandering answers, I think that was fun as well.
We all know how you love a magician, so
I do love magicians. I do not love magicians, especially corrupt politician magicians.
Yeah. So critics of book bans argue that they disproportionately target marginalized voices, including books about race, gender identity, and sexuality. Why do you think these themes are often the focus, Wendy?
That's a great question. In terms of marginalized voices tell the truth. They shine a light on something that is threatening or damaging to the illusion of, I don't even want to say the majority because it's not even the majority anymore, but what it shines a light and it has capability of riling people up. I really do think that it is a tool of manipulation rather than actually, like, nobody cares. Like, no, like some random, 60-year-old white dude in Iowa has not read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I find it hard to believe, right? But has heard about it from their cronies or whomever and used it as an opportunity to rile up because it was something that would scare parents of who they want to get their votes. So I really do think that is that's probably why, and it feeds into the xenophobia and the racism that to be honest, this country was founded on. We've seen it in the last 3 election cycles, and even today, here in Wisconsin, we have farmers who voted against their own interests, whose workforce is being raided by ICE and deported forcefully out of the country. And now they're crying because they don't have anybody to harvest the crops this summer and this fall. And it's like, well, why did you vote that way? But they're more racist than caring about, their own interests, I guess. And I think that's really what it all comes down to, is it's the root cause of racism, or, homophobia, or whatever, everything that scares the white bread, Wonder Bread America.
Mm. Dan.
That was a great answer from Wendy. Yeah, I think it's. I saw Wicked not so long ago, and I think recently on Spotify, because of a certain event, the song "Nobody Mourns the Wicked" has gone up in the charts. That's something that's happened in the States, which I'm sure we'll mention. Um, but I think in that story, the wizard says every good story needs a good villain, and the wizard creates the Wicked Witch. Effectively, he creates that villain. He makes her out to be the villain because she has something he wants and needs to get her, so he turns everybody against her. And I think that's it. Is that people need a focal point, or a lightning rod, a scapegoat, for their own problems, instead of looking inward and go, why am I not happy? Why do I have no money? Or looking at the government, or the people in charge, or the people that run the media, that control the media, the Rupert Murdochs, that arguably started all this anyway, started this anti-immigrant rhetoric that we see across the board. Again, it's not just in the US, it's not just in the UK, it's in Australia, it's in Germany. It's a growing trend, unfortunately, throughout the world. And I think, and unfortunately, I can empathize with that plight, with being unhappy and being in a place where you're frustrated and angry. And the it's easier to blame someone else than to blame yourself, or to constructively figure out what's wrong, to go to therapy, to have guidance, to find a way. And again, we're having these kind of programs, these helpful programs. The funding is cut. The NHS, our free health services, in its declining years, because they've underfunded it so much. Schooling, you name it, has all been underfunded. And then we go, oh well, I can't get an appointment at the NHS. Why can't I do that? It's not because of immigrants. It's because we want a similar healthcare system. Well, not we want, but the government, the Nigel Farages, and they want a private healthcare system. That's what they want, effectively. And they're gonna find a way to blame it on other people, because they don't want us criticizing the people in power and speaking truth to that power. They will evidently find, and sometimes I don't even think it's about race, or being trans, or being gay, or anything like that. I think it's purely about money. And then the best way to rile up people that are uneducated is to go, they did it. It's their problem. They're causing everything you're unhappy with. So yeah, I think that is the intent, and it's horrible. It's disgusting. And we've talked about this kind of stuff before, and yeah, it's very deeply concerning as well.
Kat.
Wow, I think they covered most of it. But I mean, it is true. Like, I think they're targeted because they challenge the existing social norms, and oppose those who are trying to keep the control. And they don't want ideologists, or people coming up with new ideas to change, hands of power, because once they have it, they don't want to let go. And
Yeah.
yeah, pretty
So,
much.
Kat, what's at stake for readers who are denied access to banned books?
I think it's gonna silence marginalized voices. So the people who don't think that their opinions or ideas matter, I think it'll stop, growth education wise. So I mean, just like in the book, if they're not allowed to read, they or they can't read, then how are they gonna grow educationally? How will they have other ideas? Oh, well, this is the norm. I guess we're going to have to suffer, you know? And it'll just, maybe the younger crowd, it'll hinder or stifle their critical thinking about things, and just being socially aware.
Wendy?
Um, I want to pop back to something Dan said a minute ago and just point out that Spotify picking up on No One Mourns the Wicked is so out of like so beyond the point of that song in the musical. As a musical fan,
Of
I'm
course,
so
yeah.
annoyed. Like of all the questions of
Mm.
all, like at least Ding Dong, which is dead. Like, come on.
Yeah, sure, it makes more sense. Yeah, they're
Right.
taking it. They've definitely taken it. Don't get me wrong, they've definitely taken it out of context. But
Yeah.
I know why that's there.
And I forgive them a little bit because if they haven't seen the musical, that they don't understand the many
Yes.
layers of the song and how anyway. But I digress literally. Um uh what will result in successfully banning books? Um
Or what's at stake for readers
what's
who are
at
denied
stake?
access?
Okay. In terms of, I mean, what's at stake is you have more homogenized content, and it just becomes the stupidification or the inshitification, to quote Cory Doctorow, of what's out there. That said, I think it would be doing a disservice to artists and creators to suggest that a school board banning their book is going to discourage them from creating. As a writer, I'm going to create if three people are willing to read it. In fact, I create just to make myself happy. The side effect of that is, if other people are like, that is a cool story, that's just a perk because I'm not guaranteed that anybody's going to read it. So I think that those works will still continue to be created, and I think that there will be, at least until it becomes criminalized, akin to some of the stuff that some of the scenes that we see in the book that we're discussing. It is, I think there's always going to be somebody fighting the fight and making sure to lift up those voices. And it'll just become harder, and that just makes it more important to fight.
So speaking of fighting, I will get to your answer to this in a moment, Dan, but Wendy, as an instructor, I have witnessed you making efforts to decolonize the canon that is taught as curriculum. How do you think that book bans affect that and an instructor's ability to work on that?
So there's so many different ways that you can decanonize level the play.
Decolonize?
Yeah, decolonize
Yeah.
the canon. And what happens is that there's never enough time in any semester to be able to hit every marginalized type of author and or subject. And so my general rule of thumb, which was the super easiest way to do it, was just like no straight white guys, authors, was a really easy way of doing it. But because there's always going to be, when everything's equal, you can always defer to somebody who isn't a straight white guy. That said, it's less about the origination and more about the context and the piece in question. So for instance, I did include Jonathan Swift, who had the satire piece about eating the Irish children, because it was a really interesting way of talking about both class and difference and othering, etc. So straight white guy, although arguably not straight. Um, yeah. So yeah, the it will become more challenging necessarily, but I taught the Marquis de Sade to my World Lit class. Um, I wanted them to read it and see it. I didn't want them to have questions, and we framed it in that context of discussion of and I should preface that by saying that was in the class titled Monsters and the Monstrous. So we were reading.
I just want to take that class right now.
Oh, it
And
was
you
so
need to be
good.
my teacher.
It was the best class. It was the best freaking class. But we did read monstrous texts and talk about how important it is who tells the story. Just like Hamilton, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. It's all about controlling that narrative and questioning what is the motivation of the author and from what perspective are they telling the story. So I don't know if that answered your question. I hope it
It
did.
did. And so back to Dan, what's at stake for readers who are denied access to banned books?
Again, there's a wave of anti-intellectualism that sweeping across all. Again, like I was talking about, underfunding of schools, and again, teachers struggling to meet the high standards, and again, you've got parents to deal with as well, which is not something I want to deal with, which is probably why I'm not teaching. But yeah, there is. I think obviously the less intelligent you are, the less critical thinking, the less critical eye you have on something, the less you can understand subtext and authors' intents, you're gonna be worse off. And again, if you don't know how that reflects your personal politics, what's going on in the world, how you manage your interpersonal relationships, your relationships with your family and friends, like there's emotional intelligence as well. Like that there's an anti-intellectual, emotional intellectualism going on as well. Like that women have to do this and say this and be this, and that's all they can be. And there's the Andrew Tates of the world that are apparently taking young men by storm, and telling them that they need to do this or treat women like this or say this to be with many women and to cultivate a harem of women apparently. But yeah, I think without those reading those books, again, I'm not a big reader myself, but I do a lot of research. I watch a lot of things. I talk to amazing people like the people on this podcast, and I grow. I get better for it. I'm a better human being, a nicer, more empathic human being, which again we've seemed to lost. Even the people I know, even within some of my family, I in some ways I don't. Some of them I don't even recognize anymore from what I, it's hard sometimes to separate the person in a familiar manner, but with the person they actually are as well in the rest of their life can be difficult to connect those two pieces. And yeah, I think without the ability to, again, said this on one of our previous podcasts, any creative outlet, any creative product is an agent of empathy, and I think we need those more than ever now.
Agent of empathy. I like that.
That'll be my new comic book title. Daniel Brazier,
Yes.
Agent of Empathy.
Love it. So Wendy is a teacher and a writer. Dan is a podcaster. But Kat, you're here as a reader. Like, you are a reader. You are the reason we create, What can a reader, an everyday reader, do to take action to defend the right to read in the US, in the UK, wherever they are?
I think we should support the organizations that defend our intellectual freedom. So, us, basically you guys who let everybody know, like, hey, these are the banned books, these are why, but you should also see for yourself, you know? And some people are like, oh, it's banned, I have to read it. Yes, you should. I mean, you can also do discussions about censorship and like we're doing now. Um, maybe petition. I don't know how well petitioning works. I haven't done it. So, you know, I
Well,
just
there's another book that we covered, and books were banned. The
mhm.
house on Mango Street was banned, and petitions got it reinstated. So
Oh, that's awesome.
petitions are a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah,
Wendy,
oh, sorry.
it's okay. If you have more, I'd love to hear it.
No, I lost the idea.
Well, if it comes to you, please jump in. Wendy.
In terms, what can we do? Whatever we want, man. You vote with your dollars. You vote with your, you support creators, and there's some little things that you can do that are so valuable and they are absolutely free. So even if you don't have dollars, request those books at your county library so that they're on the shelves. Just about every library has a website that says request a book. Go to whatever publisher is making the book, get the 10-digit ISBN, go put it in your library's request it form, and then they get it. They buy it if you request it. And then do that again for the audiobook and the ebook. And if you're a member of more than one library because you're on Libby, request it there. Go and put it on your Goodreads. I want to read this list. That number matters for publishers and for authors. Here's a crazy thing. I know we don't love. I don't love Amazon, but it is a necessary evil. Unfortunately, there are algorithms in which that Amazon and Barnes and Noble interact with the public and with putting things on lists. So if you can write a review, even if it's just boy, like somebody was talking crap about this book online and I read it and I thought it was great, 5 stars or 4 stars or whatever, and you put words. It's just literally as easy as that. Just, say, I bought this book because I had heard great things about it or whatever, and it definitely held my interest, or didn't finish or whatever. But I don't even care if you didn't finish it, like say that in the review, but review it. Because if you get 50 reviews on Amazon with words, suddenly you're in the next tier of the algorithm and it starts suggesting it to other people. Getting those kinds of clicks and kind of leverage for the author is very important. So there are a multitude of ways that you can support requesting it at your indie bookstore. Buying it from your indie bookstore is really important. And especially if you talk to the person who's hand selling those books and say, I wanted this because, or I put this order in here because I heard about it online and somebody was, talking crap about it or something. Those are all kind of things that you can do that seems like, I'm just one person. What could I do? That really matters.
Dan.
I'm going to go with an easy one. Put it on a podcast. People love podcasts, free advertising. Go for it. Get the author on. They want to talk about it. We have a friend, Mike at Genuine Chit Chat, often is talking to writers, big name, huge writers that work at Marvel, work on Star Wars, things like that. And we're both on kind of somewhat equal pegging in terms of like listenership and popularity and all this other stuff, which doesn't matter. But he gets them in because they want to talk about it. They want to tell you what it means to them to create. They want to get the word out. They want you to know. They want you to enjoy it ultimately. So I think those are very easy. If you've heard about a book or you want to know about the author, go on your podcast device, listen to what they have to say. Listen, if you like the cut of their jib, maybe give the book a go. Just give things a chance. Like the hardest thing I think for all of us and for everybody in the world now is to get the word out. To get the word out there. And if a podcast can do that, if I can help get the word out for the Banned Books Week out by doing a Banned Movies podcast, that's what I'll do. I'll do what I can where I can to do that, to promote and support in any way possible. And again, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take a lot of time or money or effort, really. But it does mean a lot to those people, to those authors, to those creators, and again, the people that will end up ultimately reading that book.
And I can say from my own experience, you would just be surprised the kind of connections and friendships that you can make through a podcast. I mean, that's why we know each other, right?
I was just about to say, Tonya, I consider you one of my best friends now, and we met very briefly in person as well, which is lovely. But I didn't expect it. But if our friendship was entirely digital for the rest of our lives, I still would have cherished it. And again, you don't know the kind of connections or links to people. You were talking to somebody who I didn't know, and you said, "Oh, they're a fan of your podcast." I was like, "I have fans." I didn't know that. I had no idea. But
and that's someone that I have not met in person. It's someone I know only digitally, and he's like, Spider Dan? I was like, I do.
So famous now. But and that's wonderful. Like the fact that people can reach out and that they can let you know, and that they that they appreciate you and appreciate your work. Like Wendy was saying, much like the protagonist of this book, she, in a sense, she says she's creating the listener or the reader of this. because she needs to, and because they are out there. She believes that this will be found, this will be discovered, this will be heard. It needs to be heard. And again, like Wendy's doing it, and I'm doing it my own way. Like we're putting that out, not for, success, listen, money or anything. We're doing it because it's something we feel passionate about and want to do it, need to do it to a degree, because we have to get it out. Otherwise we'll explode, we'll implode if we don't get these ideas, however we get them out, just to other people, hopefully. And again, if they come back to us, they love it, brilliant, amazing. If they don't, we're still happy that we've got them out and put them in a hopefully a concise, not meandering answer like this. But but they appreciate, enjoy it, or again disagree with it. If they disagree with it, great as well. Like it's provided and evoked a reaction of some kind. Again, hopefully not a reaction so much so that people would ban it, but they'd appreciate the distinction and the opposite opinion of that, while not actively discouraging or silencing that opinion necessarily.
So let's talk about today's banned book. Published in 1985, The Handmaid's Tale is a futuristic dystopian novel written by Margaret Atwood. Set in the near future, it describes life in what was once the United States and is now called the Republic of Gilead, a monotheocracy that has reacted to social unrest and a sharply declining birth rate by reverting to and going beyond the repressive intolerance of the original Puritans. This book was a nominee for the Booker Prize in 1986, a nominee for the Nebula Award in 1986, and a Locus Award in 1987, a Sci-Fi Chronicle Award in 1987, a Commonwealth Writers Prize in 1987, a CBC Canada Reads Award in 2002, a Prometheus Award in 1987, a James Trippey Jr. Award in 1995, and was actually awarded the Governor General's Literary Awards in Fiction in 1985, the Arthur C. Clarke Award in 1987, the Audie Award for Fiction in 2013, and the Los Angeles Times Book Prize for Fiction in 1986. And yet, it is continually challenged and banned for decades now. Kat, when you read this book, did any part of it offend you or make you uncomfortable?
As a female who is also gender fluid, it it it's heartbreaking that they took away her rights as a human being. Um, the fact that her being able to have babies was so important to their regime that um, if her commander was sterile, she could find other ways to get pregnant, like by the doctor, or even the what is the Guardian by Nick. And it's very heartbreaking that they couldn't read or do simple things. They had to you know be partnered up to walk, to go grocery shopping. Just the simple things that you don't think about, that is a freedom that we have, and it could be taken away. And to me, I feel like it just serves a reminder of what could happen, and that we should fight for it.
Yeah. How about you, Wendy? Did any part of the book offend you or make you uncomfortable?
Well, I'm trying to think back to the first time I read this, which was in 1989. Um, and so, high school. Um, I was I was offended in that I was offended by the characters and what they were doing, not by the fact that I thought it was so outrageous, because I saw it as being something that was possible, that I saw it as something that was, a nightmare that could happen and has happened in the past. Certainly everything in the book has happened before. To I think that the point of it is that it was happening to nice white girls this time, and everything else has happened, even in the U.S. Has happened already. So was I offended? Yes, but not of the book. I was offended because some of one of the curses I think of being a little neurodivergent is that you get really good at pattern recognition, and many of the patterns that are being highlighted, even the patterns of the complicity of the women who should have been helping and saving the handmaids, or the women against women violence, I guess, for lack of a better word. The aunt, oh god, I can't remember her name.
It was
Lydia?
Lydia.
Lydia.
Yeah.
And Lydia. All of those patterns that you start seeing, like, people in your life like that. Where you'd stand in that regime, and that is what was offensive to me, because it caused me to see the fragility of society um, against the numbers. If you have enough numbers, you tip over into Gilead, which is chilling.
Yeah. Dan.
Well, as you know, Tonya, I'm very pro patriarchy, so I was violently offended by this book. I'm kidding, of course.
That's the soundbite. I'm going with it.
Whoa. Don't take me out of context. Don't take me out of context. No. Yes. Yeah. Obviously it's awful. It's one of the most oppressive books I've ever read, I think. This is not your kind of Sunday afternoon read, while you're sat out in the sunshine. This is very dark and dreary, and unfortunately, very relevant. Uh, uh, you know, um, and the again, like speaking about the pronatalism thing, there seems to be this this push for pronatalism, women to have babies and to get tax breaks, even though the tax breaks are tiny to have a child in the US. But then we're stripping of all the other funding and all the other supports. But you can have the baby, and pro life and all this other stuff. But the second that baby's born, they don't give a fuck. They really don't care. They do not. They aren't going to support. Elon Musk, for God's sake, has more children than anybody that I know in the world. And what did he do when there was Luigi Mangione was out there sniping CEOs? He walked around with a child in his arms, round his back, on look like a happy father that he isn't. That his children say that he isn't that man, but he used that because he knew if he has a child, no one's going to shoot him. Not because he loves his child, not because he wants to be with his child. He's there purely as a shield to protect Elon Musk. So that for me, and that idea is the most offensive. I think. Again, the book itself does not offend me because I'm not these people. I'm not the straight white man that these books are about. Again, I'm sure I've had my moments, and I'm sure I've had some dark days in the past, but I don't believe I'm anything like that, and I don't believe I would enforce anything like that. But I think the book is complex enough to show how easy it is to fall into something like that, to slip, and to fall into the complicity, and to use the kind of language, and to get to a point like even the women in the book who begin a slight bit of power over the other women reinforce the patriarchal idea. But even the most heinous people in this, what's really interesting is that almost Atwood is actually comparing this regime to almost radical feminism, and almost as a critique in some ways, and how similar they are. And again, I don't know where I fall on that particular conversation because I don't think I know as much as I'd like to about the history of feminism and the radical aspects of it. But it's interesting that she's put that question in there, and that even the most heinous characters, even the most evil, creepy, weird, messed up characters in this, she still has an air of empathy for them, or there's a sympathy, or there's a moment of lightness, or there's a moment of this must have happened, or how did she get here, or how did he get here, how did he become like this? And it's a long, subtle, what's the analogy with the frog in the boiling water? If it's boiling, the frog will just jump out, but if it's in there and you slowly bring up the heat, it's going to stay in there and die. And I feel like that's the thing with kind of this kind of fascist thing, is that before you know it, you're in a fascist regime and you were complicit in it. And I think, again, we're seeing that a lot at the moment with people, going, oh, he's not a Nazi, he's not a Nazi. But those ideals are kind of slipping through, and you can see people just slowly kind of going into that fascist pipeline, as you would call it. So I wouldn't say I was offended by the book, but I am scared by the book. I am scared what it means, and
We're in the pot.
Yeah,
we're in the
definitely
pot,
in the pot.
and the heat is
Yeah,
on.
yeah, and and the predictive nature of the book, and I think Atwood said that herself, that it's almost like, and I think the reason, I mean, sure, we'll get into it, but the reason is that I think Atwood's gone, this is what they're doing, this is their playbook. I feel like that's the reason that people are trying to get it banned.
Which does bring me to my next question. This story presents a dystopian society rooted in extreme control over women's bodies and identities. Wendy, why do you think this book continues to face bans or challenges, especially given today's political climate?
I think that it's very easy to segment parts of the story. There's non-consensual sexual assault. It's ritualized. There's obviously violence. There's depictions. There's discussion of abortion, which can just be a hair trigger response for a lot of people. I think, and Dan touched on it. There's some level of radical pro women that could be reactive about those negative impacts of showing the handmaids as being this submissive, repressed ideal state. So there's I mean, is it easy enough to just say people don't get it? But also it is a warning, and at some point I've been hearing I think one book out of there's so many books that we could be talking about in terms of alignment with some of the just nightmare fuel that we are living in as a culture in the US. And it's The Handmaid's Tale that keeps coming up. It's 1984 certainly is in there, but The Handmaid's Tale is the one that I keep hearing about. And I was in fall of 2020, September of 2020, I was driving across the country, moving back from Las Vegas, and when I saw on my phone that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and I just started breaking out in tears. And my husband's like, "What?" And I was like, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. Ruth happens to also be my stepmother's name, so I just said Ruth. I couldn't say it anymore, and he thought my stepmother had died. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, well, she was old." And I'm like, "No, this is going to be the beginning of so much badness. This is going to be the beginning of so much badness." And and so it is, that this is overturning Roe v. Wade. That's what I saw happening, and people told us we were overreacting. And as we continue to talk about The Handmaid's Tale and using that um as a this is what could happen, like Dan was pointing out, that's the boiling pot of water where we're all scalded and dead. That's where we all turn into a pot of frog soup. The people who really want Gilead to happen don't want us aware that the frog soup is a potential, that we're going to end up as frog dumplings, because we won't let them just slide into fascism then. So that's why I think it probably is in some ways continually challenged.
Kat, what are your thoughts on that?
Wait, can you repeat the question?
Sure. It's started off just that this is a dystopian society book that
Right.
talks about the extreme control over women's bodies and their identities. So why do you think it continues to face bans and challenges in today's climate?
Um, just like Wendy said, like all the things. It it just seems threatening, the political agendas and fighting back, even though, they're oppressed and people don't like their beliefs to be shaken and the power structures I'm going to stick to it. They don't want to give up the power. They, they want it. They want to keep it. They want to be rich. Just like Elon uses his children as a shield. They hold on to their money and their power and just abuse us. We should just all eat the rich. Yeah, it's awful that, Roe versus Wade they got rid of it, and I've gone to some protests, and thank goodness Nevada is pro women and it's in our legislature because I would be so sad.
Can we just recognize for a minute that it's a female majority legislature in Nevada, which is so freaking rock and roll. Woohoo.
That's what they're against. There you go. That's it. They don't want that in every state. That's the whole. That's why for my money, that's why they're banning it. They don't want even the anyone to think that a matriarchy is possible or that a matriarchy would be better. Which, I mean, we've tried it the other way for so long. Why don't we give it the other go? No harm lost. Why don't we give it a try? Can't be any worse.
Yeah, it's been a solid 4,000, 5,000 years,
Yeah,
right? Let's just try it. Like, let's
Change
just
it
give it like 50 years. Let's see what happens.
Just give it, that's a fair amount of time. See how it goes. Yeah, just trade it up, just for a change, make it a matriarchy of women of color as well. Even better, do it. Destroy both of those glass ceilings at the same time. Let's do it. Campaign for that.
Or according to the CBR, The Handmaid's Tale, with its inclusion of a queer character and the discussion of feminism, religious extremism, and sexuality, ended up on the list of 800 books that are banned in the state. Texas schools have also cited profanity and anti-Christian sentiment for the decision to ban The Handmaid's Tale, the state being Texas. Canada censored The Handmaid's Tale for the depiction of violence and offensive language. Other countries, including Portugal and Spain, have removed the book from the public's access on the grounds of sexual content, profanity, being anti-Christian, and featuring LGBTQ plus characters. And the Persian translation of the book, released in Iran, had the text altered to not put the idea in women's heads that they would be rewarded for activism. What are your thoughts on the reasons that it was banned? And just leave this for anyone here. Anyone who feels compelled to voice their opinion on those statements.
Women.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Wendy. You
go ahead.
Well, women can't have ideas now, can they not? No, we can't have women having ideas. Heaven forbid. Oh God, the world will come to an end. But, yeah, it's unsurprising it's banned in that part of the world. I get it. Culturally, religiously, I get it. But I think one of the books I put on one of the films I put on our potential list of the banned movies was about. I think it was something about burqas, lipstick on my burqa or something like that. I'm blanking on the title, but basically it was banned because women were not allowed at football matches, soccer matches in the Middle East. I think it may have been Iran or somewhere like that. Again, I can't remember the country, but like the fact that a woman can't go to a football match. Like we have an incredible. I don't follow football, but we have an incredible women's team in England. The Lionesses they call them, and they have won multiple titles and cups and stuff. But yeah, like just it boggles the mind, doesn't it? It just boggles the mind that oh dear, we can't have a woman think. Heaven forbid she's not just her reproductive organs, which is what they're boiled down to in this book. The only
So
bedstead.
speaking of women, like I do want to hear from Dr. Wimmer, women who can't think, right? Dr. Wimmer, would you please give us your thoughts on this?
I can think of a book that has a lot of sexual and graphic content and a lot of negative women being depicted, and it's not banned. It's called the Bible, the King
It
James
actually is
Bible.
banned.
Oh, is
It
it?
is banned.
God.
Yes.
Snap.
I knew what you were talking about, because
Yeah.
it's like what a lot of people don't realize is that all, these sweeping book bans, they
Mhm.
are that say anything with this, or this, that includes the Bible.
It does.
And I'm probably going to do that book next year.
Whoa.
That's a long one to read, man.
I'm not going to require that my guests read the entire book from beginning to end. Like
It's a tough read.
Yeah, it's dry. Spoiler alert.
But not all of
well.
it. Not all of it. Some of it is really racy and
Yeah.
spicy.
Song of Solomon. Yeah. So anyway, the ban, I think it's bullshit. That's my short, not long-winded answer.
Do you have anything to add to that, Kat?
No, I mean the fact that women can't have ideas is great. But not even football matches, it's wild. You know,
Yeah.
I guess, it's the three steps behind, look down and all of that. Yeah, I would not be able to live there. I'd be stoned, literally.
I can see you wearing that t-shirt. I would have been burned. I would have been stoned.
I would be a kitchen accident away of an oil fire. Absolutely. I'm too outspoken for any of those cultures.
Which is why we love you. Some argue that The Handmaid's Tale is too disturbing for students, while others see it as a cautionary tale that's more relevant than ever. How do we balance discomfort with the educational value of confronting difficult themes? And we'll start with Dan here.
Great question. I mean, I think we all need to live with discomfort. We're all trying to escape. I think there's a difference between pain and discomfort. If you're in pain, then that's a problem. If you're in discomfort, that's normal. That's part of life. There's going to be times and situations and people you're with that make you uncomfortable. If they make you too uncomfortable, then yeah, you've got to do something about that. But I think there's a sense of people trying to I'm all up for escapism. Sometimes far too much, or I'll throw myself into a project or editing a podcast or something to not have to think about one thing or emotionally deal with another. Luckily, I do go to therapy, so I'm on the I've got some emotional constructive outlet for that. But yeah, I think to balance it, I think bring it into the classroom, talk about it, do it a chapter at a time, break it down. What did you think of this chapter? What is your opinion on this chapter? People social media is all about giving your opinion on this and that, and gets various people into trouble. So have your students come in and say, "Oh, I'd want you to write an imaginary social media post or review about this," and and have that discussion. And again, go in, maybe give them upfront warning that you may see things that are uncomfortable, might make you upset, might offend you, but we're going to talk about it and we're going to work through it as a group in a safe space, in a communicative and honest place, and then we can control it. We can put a lid on it. We can do something about it. If you go away and read it, and you have a family that are not really interested, haven't read it, or have no interest in reading it, it's harder to have that conversation. But someone who's educated and cares and wants their students to do well, I think they are a wonderful person to have that discussion with. And given the rise of like people like Tate, as we've discussed, I think it is more important than ever.
Kat.
I do love his idea about just like going over a chapter and having a group discussion in a safe place, because each chapter varies as it goes deeper and deeper into the dystopian world, and the more conversations you can have with a group of people, then it'll be like, "Oh, well, how can we stop this?" Or "Why did it come to this?" Or, anything. "Why did they react this way?" A lot of what ifs, why, what could happen, and how we can make things better. Instead of censoring it, have a healthy conversation and know that it's not real, it's a book, but it possibly could happen.
Yeah. Wendy.
Discomfort fuels growth. And I think that going into, if you're like in a cool school setting, as we're positing, in that kind of setting, um, just being very clear and transparent about the material that you're going to read, and kind of, I don't want to use the word trigger warnings because apparently it makes me a snowflake, but literally that's what it is, very, very clear and precise explanations so that nobody's shocked. You know what you're walking into, and you can always read a summary if you don't, if you know yourself, and you know that, if you're going to be reading a sexual assault scene and that's going to be upsetting, you can read a summary to just know that it happened to the character, so that it informs the understanding of the character's motivations and whatever, rather than, go through the whole thing. Consent is really what I'm getting to here. Consent to read the piece, and being able to give consent, not be forced to read something that is upsetting necessarily. And that goes both ways. I don't want to teach, for instance, Mein Kampf, or any of that ilk. The Art of the Deal, if we're talking about other gross things. Consent there is going both ways.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of segue from something that Kat said, that it's fiction, but it could become something real. This novel explores the themes of powerless women in a patriarchal society, the loss of female agency and individuality, suppression of reproductive rights, and the various means by which women resist and try to gain individuality and independence. Atwood has famously said that everything in The Handmaid's Tale is based on historical events, on real historical events. In a 2018 LitHub article, she wrote that nations never build apparently radical forms of government on foundations that aren't already there. The deep foundation of the United States, so went my thinking, was not the comparatively recent 18th century Enlightenment structures of the Republic, with their talk of equality and their separation of church and state, but the heavy-handed theocracy of 17th century Puritan New England, with its marked bias against women, which need only the opportunity of a period of social chaos to reassert itself. Now, Wendy, you are in a unique position, you've actually met Margaret Atwood and you've had conversations with her about this. So based on the conversations that you've had, this question goes to everyone. I'm just going to start with Wendy because she has this insight, but what does that suggest about the power of speculative fiction to reflect and critique our own society? And then what do you think Atwood's thoughts would be on this entire, the same question, like what would her thoughts be on that idea?
Well, she is a character. She is everything that you imagine. She is salty, sassy, sharp as whatever is sharper than a tack. Uh, we mostly started talking about birds because we were driving around in the spring and it was bird migration time in Wisconsin. And I didn't want to be that person who talks about my work. But I referenced something else that she had written, and she looked at me and she's like, "You're not just some volunteer, are you?" And I was like, "No, I actually, I had brought her into a book and author festival that I founded, and basically, she was my pick and the argue of our keynote, because I wanted to bring in somebody big, and also I basically wanted to meet my favorite author. So so my only requirement to do the whole entire festival, and it was huge, was I got to be basically her Uber driver. Not really Uber or anything, but just drive her around and be her quote unquote handler. And so we started, she's like, well, tell me about your work. And I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna be that person, but okay. What I'm struggling with is that I was at the time writing a book that the novel that's coming out next fall, actually, that I was really struggling with making it believable, because it had a dystopia element to it, and she had written many dystopias in the past. She's written, she basically exists in that state. I think as her comfort area, and kind of, and that juxtaposition between the natural world and the human forces that play within them. And so I explained her my novel, and she said, well, it's very simple. Everything that you're explaining has happened already in the past. Um, so that's, you don't have to make it believable because it's already happened. And then she gave the example of the Handmaid's Tale, everything from the special outfits that they had to wear to the rules that they had to wear, the rules that they had to follow, the segregation, the crimes against fertility, etc. All of those things had happened in the past to different populations, and she just combined them in a unique way. So she basically said, you have permission to write whatever you want, as long you don't even have to work hard at it if it has already happened before. And spoiler alert for my novel, the ridiculous speculative story that I was writing was that a mass global health crisis would force the entire world into lockdown for a very long period of time. So, surprise, spoiler alert, she or I or both of us are witches because we made that then happen. But I think she would. She is not going to be deterred. She thinks that the more you ban it, the more important it is, and the more crazy then she has to, or the more specific and tactical and surgical her work needs to be to continue to shine a light on inequalities. I will also say, we were talking a little bit about Mad Adam and Orcs and Crake, and I said, thanks to you, I couldn't eat shrimp for 7 years, because she has a section in Mad Adam where the narrator is trying to survive off the wild, and she rationalizes eating insect larvae and saying they were land shrimp. I know, and just ruined for shrimp for many years. And she goes, "Oh yeah, land shrimp," and I said, "Yep, that is it." And she goes, "Well, I hate to tell you, but in the apocalypse, you would be weak." And I'm like, that is correct. That is correct, Margaret Atwood. I would, in fact, be one of the first wave out. Thanks. Thank you for bringing that up. So again, her ability to see through bullshit is uncanny.
Yeah. Kat, what are your thoughts on the power of speculative fiction to reflect and critique our society?
I mean, from reading the book, it serves as a mirror. So we want to highlight the importance of our basic human rights and our freedoms, and just try not to get it taken away. And encourage people to have the freedom of thought, freedom of ideas. Women have all the ideas. Do the things. Don't be afraid. Say the weird thing.
Say the weird
Do
thing.
not suppress. Do not suppress your thoughts and ideas just to make people comfortable. No. Be
I
More
weird.
think you need to
discomfort.
start making a
More
t-shirt
discomfort.
line. No, really, Kat. I think you have these lines like "do not suppress." Yes, that's your next t-shirt. Like you need to
Oh,
start a site of t-shirts.
my friend just made a very pretty guillotine, and it says in the front pocket, love is um resist. And I was like, ooh, and it's got flowers around it. And I was like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna buy from your Etsy shop. But yeah,
Yes.
do the things.
And Wendy's going to write a story called The Very Pretty
You
Guillotine.
saw it in my face. That was so
Ooh.
crazy.
I want a pair
True.
of guillotine earrings.
It's true.
Listeners, make it happen.
Oh, they're there. They're on Etsy.
Yeah,
I've been
yes. Oh,
eyeballing
okay.
them.
All right. Well, you'll have to send me the link so that I can put it in the show notes.
Yes,
Viva la resistance.
absolutely.
Dan, do you have anything to add to that?
Power of speculative fiction. Well, I grew up on X-Men the animated series. I grew up on RoboCop, and that I think informed a lot of who I am as a person, my political beliefs and ideas, and how people should be treated and accepted equally, no matter how different they are, and that evil corporations are out to get us clearly, and that yeah, there's a lot of dystopian futures out there that I have enjoyed and appreciated, much like this book. So yeah, I think good fiction can change who you are, what you are, can make you grow, can make you change your perspectives on things. So yeah, absolutely. If it's telling me something about today's society, if I'm intelligent enough to recognize, oh, that's quite similar to this, and and I have family members that sometimes miss the point of we watch Black Mirror, and they're like, oh, that's I go, oh, that's Netflix. Making fun of Netflix. The host of their program they're making fun of, and they're like, no, that's Stream Easy, and I'm like, no, it's clearly Netflix. They're just putting a name there so they don't say Netflix, and they're like, but Netflix isn't bad. I was like, you know but that's the kind of fun I have, and that's why I'm always looking into these things. There's much more deeper layers to a silly action film or a superhero comic book. There's something, there's depths to plumb with everything, and the artists and the writers are always doing that, and they appreciate it when you find those depths, and they also appreciate that you buy their work as well. But yeah, I think they doubly appreciate if you do that.
Well, as we wind down, Kat, I want to ask you, what are the reasons that you think people should read The Handmaid's Tale? What are the conversations that can start?
The conversation should be to understand the dangers of authoritarianism and gender inequality and censorship, um, and the role of religion. Religion, religion should be separated from state and all things. Don't pass your religion to be mine. I believe in different things than what you believe in. Um, and just protecting our democratic values. I will be a Democrat until I die or they kill me. So, you know, I will fight, I will do my best and just resist. Keep reading the banned books, learn more things and tell people about it.
Thank you. Dan, you were messaging me all through your reading of this book. Like it was definitely affecting you, and
Yes.
you kept having these moments where you needed to voice. So tell the listeners why they should read The Handmaid's Tale. What are the conversations you think it can start?
I think as a straight white male, there's a lot of talk about being part of the family unit, the balancing of that, and what you can do to be a have show positive masculinity, and I think those conversations about again, sexual activity, consent, pregnancy, birth, the myriad of topics you can have about two or multiple genders, and your role in a partnership, or again, even with two women, or however the balance works. You can discuss all of these things, and I think it is, if you've never thought about abortions and things like that, and reproductive rights as a man, because we have the let's say the benefit of not having to worry about it necessarily, even though we should, and even though it should be a legitimate concern, and it is a legitimate concern. There are young men who go, it's not my thing, abortions are there, but then they're taken away. So there's a lot of deep and conversations that you can have, and you can show appreciation and empathy for your partner who experiences the world in a different way entirely. There's talk about, I was having a conversation last night with somebody about, I was out at a bar and there was a guy, not necessarily, violent or aggressive, but somebody who was invading our space, and she talked about how it feels to always be, in survival mode, always thinking about ways of escape, always thinking about what the potentiality of the danger that's involved, and at every minute of every moment of a woman's life, they have to think about that. And men have the privilege not to. And that's terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. But that is the patriarchal society we live in. But it shouldn't be like that. And the fact that women in this book are being blamed for things that are totally out of their control, the assaults, the not being pregnant. The man can't be man can't be infertile. What are you talking about? It's only the women. It must be the women's problem why they can't get can't get impregnated. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of deep conversations. But if you take it back to religion, all these big religious groups and evangelicals, whoever you want to, they're all about taking stuff away and banning you and saying this is wrong and what's right. But what did God give you? What did God give you? What was his gift? Free will. So you have the free will to read this. You have the free will to do and take whatever message you want from it. That's your choice. Don't let anybody else take that choice away from you. In a book about restrictive choices, do not restrict your own choices.
Dr. Wimmer.
To Dan's point, things weren't great for the men in the book either. It is very much
absolutely.
a warning tale for both, or rather all genders.
Mm.
And I'm going to take a different tact and think of it as an artifact of something that an author thought of as speculative and put in place. And now we're seeing very many of we are in the first 2 chapters right now. Like, we are in that point where, at one point, the narrator just suddenly, we're just before the narrator gets her bank account turned off. And just before, so you have to think about, where would you in yourself fit in this society? Because the men who weren't in the military or weren't high up in politics, they were not treated well either. And let's not pretend that most people would be in. It is that rare section. I would probably be cleaning toxic waste because I'm not going to be a Martha. So that's going to be my lot, is probably going to be out in the cleaning up the nuclear damage with the narrator's mom. And I will also say, Atwood's a beautiful writer. She's just a beautiful writer. If you haven't, if the ideas of this are uncomfortable, that is a reason to read it. Challenge yourself. Comfort is growth, or comfort is safe, and discomfort is growth. And also, it's important, like, check out her other work too. Blind Assassin is the first book I ever finished that made me start sobbing as I turned the last page, because it was done and I had to leave that world. It felt like that last page kicked me out of that world, because her writing is just so beautiful. So don't sleep on her. She's going to be a future postage stamp. She's a great writer who happens to be alive right now. And then that's an opportunity to explore great literature.
That's wonderful. And I think it's worth noting, Dan, you say you're not a big reader, but did you or not pick up the sequel to this book?
I will now.
I thought you said that you did.
No, no, not yet, but I will now. I will now. I know. I think I'm gonna. I've just today. I just watched the original film that they made in 1990, and I'm probably gonna start the show as well. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a go
I
and see
think I
how.
am going to try the show after reading this.
Yeah, I think I'm interested to see where it goes
I
and how they expand on it.
I will tell you, I'm a huge Atwood fan. I am a huge fan of this book. I think I got to the fourth or fifth episode and I noped out. It got too
Oh dear.
much. It got too
Dear.
much for me. So I've not been
Well,
able to.
as Dan and I discovered, things on screen are they hit differently.
Yeah,
So-
very much so. It was kind of like when I watched The Walking Dead and I realized like that this is too much. This is too much. I can't. It's too much. So caveat.
Okay, well, we will keep that in mind. And I do want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you, Wendy and Dan, for returning, and thank you, Kat, for joining us for your first time. I hope that you come back. I appreciate all of your input. Before we wrap up, Kat, where should people look for you to connect with you or support your work or anything that matters to you?
I mean, I'm not out there as much anymore. I guess Instagram, you can do Asian Kit Kat. I'm under there. I should post more because living life, living life to the fullest. But yeah, keeping it sort
And
of private.
are there any charities that you would like to have them
Oh
support in your
yes,
name?
yes, CCC, Critical Care Comics. We like to bring comic books to children in hospitals. Give them something to do, a better dystopian world they can read about.
Yes.
Or maybe not, but it'll get them out of their reality, so we do that.
At least there will be
Yep.
superheroes there to save those in that dystopian world, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Of justice.
Positive. Yes, of justice. All the
Wendy, where can
superheroes.
people find you and support your work?
My website, which is very infrequently updated, is wendywimmer.com. I am on Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for my name. Send me an email. I'm very lonely, and I would love to answer questions. And of course, my book, Entry Level Short Stories, is available everywhere where you find books are sold. And also ask for it at your library if it's not at your library. I'm just as happy if you read it at the library.
Yeah, I love her book. Definitely, I vouch for it. And some of our friends through the Comics in Motion network also vouch for it because these episodes, because Comics in Motion, this show isn't really about comics, but it is. It's about literature, and comics are a form of literature. And the team there, they support what we're doing, and so they put these episodes out there as well. They let us take over the feed for a week, and the person who actually uploads to the feed loves your book and has talked to me about it frequently.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dan, where can people find you and support your work?
Well, I'd like to support your work, so go and check out Comics Lit. Go and buy Comics Lit. Amazing book. I'm not even halfway through, and it's already fantastic. Everyone that's contributed to that book, it's amazing. So yes, comics are literature. I believe that wholeheartedly. I wanted to do the comic book this year, but it was so popular, it was already booked up, so I had to do this. But again, more than happy to do this. It was great. It wasn't as long as the last book, but yes, you can find me.
We did
Yeah.
Invisible Man last year.
Yeah.
Dan,
I
it's the
may
longest book
not.
we've ever done.
Yeah, I may not join you for the Bible. I will say that. Maybe not.
I
But
put you down as the first person to ask for the graphic novel next year.
no, in a way, I am like part of me is kind of interested in maybe actually doing the Bible. So maybe I might take you up on that. We'll see. But yeah, Spider-Man and the Secret Balls. If you really enjoy everything that Tonya's done here in the last few years, please go and listen to our band movies. Again, similar conversation, but still a bit different. On my channel, on hers, you'll have the link somewhere in the show notes, I'm sure. Whoever's writing those. But it was a really wonderful discussion. We put a lot of work into it. Me and Tonya, she led the discussions, and I did all the kind of social media and editing and stuff. So we both worked really hard on it. And we managed to find the time between both our busy schedules to do it. But it was really beneficial, and yeah, it was a wonderful little project for us. So hopefully we'll do something again, maybe of a similar nature. I don't know. But yeah, and then I do all some other weird and wacky stuff, and mostly check that out because it's our most recent thing, and it fits. And again, it's like kind of a warm up to this. So yeah, go back and check that out.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your wonderful input. Thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed what you heard, please like, comment, and share. Thank you for listening. More importantly, thank you for reading.